And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Folks, I've reviewed For the Crown, which is a mix between a deck builder and chess. And as odd as that may seem, it is a terrifically good game. Take a look at it, my review of it, if you want to see how the game plays. Today, we're going to be taking a look at For the Crown, Shock and Awe. All right, in this game, it's basically just an expansion. Add some more pieces to it. What I'm going to do here is just show you some of the new pieces, some of the new cards, and tell you what I think of them. Alright, let's take a look at some of the cards and pieces that come with this game. First, we have a couple cards in the game that don't have any pieces attached with them. The Surge, which might be my favorite card from the game, because it lets you pick one of your units and you can capture all the units that's threatened by that piece. Combine that with a powerful Queen unit. Oh, you got to kill your unit to do it. Put your unit in the barracks, but still. And then the +4 gold is always a great thing to have too. This one's in the game. I'm very pleased with it. Then we have Screen, which lets me move. Basically, it's kind of like a castling move with a knight or any of your mounted units. You can move a mounted unit and then move a sovereign unit that was adjacent to its initial position to an empty square next to its new one. So it's kind of like a guard. You're moving it with the piece. And then you can play as an action where your opponent gives you 3 gold, but they can't play most actions on their next turn. So it's a very useful card, very useful. The problem is, of course, it costs 7. The Serfs is a new card that the game includes that you can substitute for one of your peons in the basic deck. Basically, it gives you a +1 buy and 1 gold, but it still just gives you a pawn in the game. Now let's take a look at the new pieces. First, we have here the Skirmisher. Now, the Skirmisher is a pretty weak piece, actually. It can go straight 1, or it can go diagonally backwards. But when it captures, it can only capture straight ahead or this like a pawn. So that's kind of useful. The backup ability of the card, which lets you draw a card +1 buy, and you can discard 3 cards for +1 gold. That's more useful. But then again, the Skirmisher only costs 2 to put that card in the deck. Let's look at a really weird piece. Here's a Day Rider, which makes me think it's a blade on a horse. But anyhow, the Day Rider can just go 2 spaces in any direction. So he can do this. But he can keep going, or he can diagonal, boom, boom. And he can jump over other pieces, which makes him very useful to get all over the board, because any piece that can jump has a nice ability. The problem, of course, is that that also limits him, and players can see pretty much exactly where he's going to go. Except he has that hopping ability. I almost call him the rabbit. Now, cooler than that one, I think, though, is the Changeling. The Changeling is whatever piece they're next to, any adjacent piece. So, if you're next to other more powerful pieces, you will be able to move like them too. So here the Changeling can move like the Day Rider, or it can move like the Prophet. I've been expecting that. And that special ability where you get a copy of the first card you buy, basically you buy 2 cards, also very nice. The Caravan is a really interesting piece. It's not very powerful at all. It can move 1 or 2 spaces forward, except you have to pay money to do that. And you can always attack straight 1. So why would you ever do that sort of thing? I mean, it can go straight in any direction, but you have to pay to move it. The thing is, while it's deployed, you're always +2 gold. So always having that ability out on the board to get extra money will tempt you to buy these. The problem is, your opponent's going to come after that piece because it's giving you that extra money. Then we have the Lightning. The Lightning can always leap, going here, or backwards 2 spaces, just like the other one, or it can go diagonally over and back. It can't go sideways too. It's kind of limited in that regard, but it also lets you do +1 more order. So it's kind of like an extra thing to do. And its order card, which lets you capture any unit that's adjacent to one of your pious units, is a very powerful card, and that's why this one costs 5. Now here's a very unusual piece, the Idol. The Idol can't move, can't attack. It's just there. So why would you want it? Well, the card costs 5, and it's basically a sovereign piece. So it's another king, in essence, that you can defend. easy to get on the board, easy to add. I actually think, though, that the action's better, where you can trash a card and get a card that costs up to 5 more. So that's the idol. Now we have the Prophet, the one I showed you earlier. The Prophet is kind of like a wiggling guy. He can ride diagonally, turning 90 degrees. So the Prophet moves like this. And as long as he can move around and not get blocked, so he's quite powerful, actually. You need to keep an eye on him. He can wiggle his way in there and get it from you. He can also discard a card from your hand to whatever the cost of the card is, how much money you have. Now we have the Golem. Golems are mean and nasty creatures, and this Golem is no exception. He's very similar to the Prophet I just showed you, except he goes 2 spaces in any direction and then turns. So he can hit the whole board, in essence, as he's moving around, hitting all these different spaces, moving 2 spaces in any direction, and that's combined with an attack. So very useful, very powerful pieces. But he's still not as powerful as the Amazon. Most powerful piece in the game at this point in time. The Amazon is basically a queen and a knight combined, which means she can go as far as she wants in any direction, and also 2-1 or 1-2, which basically means she can hit almost the entire board. Now her card costs 11, but the card is useful. You'll be tempted to keep it for its ability because you can choose a class, and for each of your units from that class, you may march or attack with that unit. So if you have a whole pile from the same class on the board, this card is very useful to have in your deck, but you'll still be tempted to give it up to get another Amazon on the board. Folks, there isn't much more to say. I like it. I like adding more pieces. I like adding more variety. Some of the new pieces are very weird, like the idol. I'm not sure really how I feel about it. The Doppelganger, on the other hand, I think is a fantastically cool piece because I can copy all the other ones, and the guys who zigzag around. There's a lot here of just continually moving, and again, as I said about the original game, it kind of warps your brain thinking about all the possibilities. This one just continues with the mind warping. You can chuck the box. Everything that was in the original box does fit in the, everything in the expansion box fits in the original box fine. From what it sounds like, this is only the first expansion to this game. But it's a good one. There's nothing groundbreaking here, just some more cards and more units, and that really amps up the variety in the original game, something that I enjoy.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!